Good morning, ma'am. So, by the way, my name is Lusalmiti Mungar, and now I will going to continue this report. So, these are the objectives. In this module, challenge yourself to attain the following learning outcomes. So, first is describe how the 14 principles are connected to each of the modules that you have studied. And the second is align your learning or insight gained to 14 principles. And the last is demonstrate appreciations of the 14 principles as a sound framework for effective facilitating learning. So now I will be continue the number 5, thinking about thinking, the under of the cognitive and metacognitive learning. So thinking about thinking, it is the higher order strategies for selecting and monitoring mental operations, facilitate creative and critical thinking. In my learnings in higher order strategies for selecting and monitoring mental operations, facilitate creative and critical thinking is profoundly fundamental in many ways because it is examine the capabilities of students and measure the learning's potential in a certain manners of exposing the students to a particular level of complexity. And also, it is facilitates the students into creative behaviors leading to explorative learning such as in linguistics, geography, science, or even social studies. With these types of facilitations, it is assessed the instructor what materials, instructions, or examinations that will best suit the students for further test, evaluation, and assessments. So number 6 is context of learning. Learning is influenced by environmental factors, including culture, technology, and instructional practices. So, if we choose the right context, so the learner's brain will learn to recognize the trigger conditions for the ability and the elements that can change without affecting the requirement to execute. So this includes the situations that suggest how to adapt the skills to a different situation where it is still relevant. So let us move on the 3 motivational and affective factors. First is motivational and emotional influences on learning, and the second is intrinsic motivation to learn, and the last is effects of motivation on effort. Motivational and emotional influences on learning. It is what and how much is learned. It is influenced by the learner's motivation to learn, and turns to it is influenced by the interest by the individual's emotional states, beliefs, interests and goals, and habits thinking. Students are more motivated to engage in learning when they feel competent to do what is expected of them and perceive the stable links between actions and achievements. They value the subject and they have a clear sense of purpose. They experience positive emotions toward learning activities and contrariwise. Turn away from learning when they experience a negative emotions and when they perceive the environment as a favorable for learning. Students free up cognitive resources when they are able to influence the intensity, duration, and expressions of their emotions, and are more persistent in learning when they can manage in their resources and deal with obstacles efficiently, because emotion is something that motivates you. Next is intrinsic motivation to learn. The learner's creativity, higher order thinking, and natural curiosity all contribute to motivation to learn. Intrinsic motivation is stimulated by tasks of optimal novelty and difficulty. relevant to personal interest, and also in it is providing for personal choices and control. So, it is usually occurs when students are engaged because of internal rewards, like a love of learning or interest in a subject. These students learn to value learning for its own merits, regardless of any external factors. Next is effects of motivation on effort. Acquisition of complex knowledge and skills requires extended learners, effort and guided practice. Without learners' motivation to learn, the willingness to exert this effort is unlikely without coercion. So it means motivation also leads to increased effort and energy because it determines whether students will pursue a task or even a difficult one or lackluster attitude. So motivation is increases the initiations and persistence of activities. So that's all my report, and thank you and God bless.